We at Epic Games are gamers, we're game developers, and we're creators of game engine technology. Now, being an engine developer is kind of a funny thing because we're 2 levels removed from the end product of our industry. We're sort of creators of paintbrushes, which artists can use to realize their vision. But this being the Game Developers Conference, it's a good time to get together and to talk about the state of Unreal. And just a year ago, we launched the Unreal Engine for everybody. We unveiled a new model where anybody could go to our website, subscribe, and just for $19 a month, get access to the complete engine. And we got up confidently in front of all of you and announced this. But the truth is, we are terrified. We had absolutely no idea if it would work. Would AAA game developers take us seriously now that our engine is available ubiquitously? Would indies want an engine with this level of power and capability? But fortunately, it worked. And over the past year, our Unreal Engine community has grown 25-fold. And we've really been astonished and humbled by what the community has done with the technology. Now, there are a lot of things that we were hoping would happen that happened, but then there are also some complete surprises. One of the surprises is that it turned out that a lot of these people who subscribed to the Unreal Engine, gotten access and were working with it in their spare time at home, actually had day jobs at major game studios throughout the game industry. And about 3 months following the release of Unreal Engine 4, we saw a huge upsurge in interest and adoption of the engine among major game developers all over the industry. And it wasn't a matter of corporate executives deciding that the teams ought to use the Unreal Engine. It was entirely a grassroots effort where developers learned the engine, they built up excitement, they shared it with their coworkers, and eventually lobbied their bosses to use the engine for their next projects. And that's been a wonderful surprise for us. The other thing that we were not expecting was the really widespread adoption of the Unreal Engine outside of the traditional game industry. Now, game engines have been used for serious real-world projects since the days of Doom. But what we're seeing today is qualitatively very different. We've seen architects and filmmakers and industrial designers come in, and they have schooled us. They've really shown us an entirely new set of things that can be done to bring up the level of graphics and photorealism, and taught us techniques that we did not even realize were possible, despite being creators of the engine. And of course, we've also seen games. We've seen games of all sizes from developers throughout the industry, from indie games created by a single person to AAA games created by large teams, games in all genres with all art styles by companies around the entire world. Now, I'd like to just show some of the things that are happening with the Unreal Engine today. thanks. This all excites us greatly too. And now we've decided to make the Unreal Engine available to everybody for free. This was announced 2 days ago, and we've eliminated all the last barriers to entry for the engine. Anybody can go to our website, download the engine, and get started building. And the business model behind our engine business is very simple. Anybody can use the engine for free, and if you ship a successful commercial product that makes more than $3,000 per quarter, then we ask for a 5% royalty of the revenue from the game. Now, this is a model that's been with us and adopted by AAA game developers using the engine since the very first engine deal we did back 19 years ago. That was also a 5% royalty deal. Now, as we've brought out the engine to a new set of developers, there have been some folks in our community who have come to us and said, Epic, you're asking for a percentage of my revenue. You're asking for an awful lot. And that is true, we are asking for a lot. But in exchange, we're giving you absolutely everything. All of the source code, all of the tools, and absolutely every advantage and capability that we at Epic have ourselves when we go out to build our own games, like Fortnite and Unreal Tournament. It's a business model that aligns our interests precisely with the interests of game developers. It keeps us honest because it's a business model in which Epic will only succeed if developers look at the engine, decide that it's worth it, and then go on to create successful games with it. And that is the state of the art of the Unreal Engine today. Now, as soon as we announced the engine last year, there was a groundswell of interest in Unreal Tournament that we were not expecting, but we heard the community's interest, and so we assembled a small team of people at Epic Games to form the core of a team and develop the project in a really unprecedented way. Unreal Tournament is being developed in the open. You can go into our GitHub repository, see all of the code and all of the content as it's being built in collaboration between Epic developers and people in the Unreal Tournament community. And there are hundreds of people contributing. Now, I'll let the Unreal Tournament team speak for themselves and talk about the project.
Every year, I say, hey, when are we going to do the next Unreal Tournament? And then one day, Paul Megan pulled me aside and he said, hey, we're thinking about doing the new Unreal Tournament. But I heard the word community manager come out of his mouth and I just, yes.
Unreal Tournament is something that's really near and dear to a lot of our hearts. I mean, especially me, that's basically been the game that I've been most excited about and most passionate about making through all these years. But at first we were kind of nervous and we knew there was passion from the community. We wanted to build another Unreal Tournament, so it was how can we make this work?
This project has been a very kind of interesting experiment for us. We are doing a truly open development process where every bit of the game, from the very first line of code to every pixel that gets on the screen, is open to the community.
We talk to the people who are helping us make the game, the modders that are out there, the level designers, the people who like to make skins. They are actually making things and we are putting them into our game. And we've actually hired someone on who was doing the concept art.
There's a guy in the forums, his name is Gooba, and he's a concept artist and he's amazing. This guy really stepped up and really kind of changed my mind as far as where we should take UT. That was kind of my aha moment of, wow, we can actually do this.
The community events have been amazing. It's really easier to work with somebody once you've met them in person. And so it's really awesome now, after we've met them, it's easier to talk to them, whether it's on IRC or on the forums. And it was awesome to see how passionate these guys were, how talented they were. Helping people be successful creating for Unreal Tournament is key to our success. And so we've made it easier for people than ever to get the tools. You can download the editor from the launcher, and from then that you can figure out how to unleash the power of the editor to basically do whatever you imagine.
People can go to UnrealTournament.com right now, download Unreal Tournament, jump into the editor, and create their own content to either play on their own, share with their friends, or sell on the marketplace.
So we've actually taken a different approach to tutorials than we ever have in the past, and we want them to be very approachable and very interactive, that kind of help you get your feet wet, try something small, and then if you're interested in that system, there are follow-up tutorials that help you follow on and learn something more.
The hope is that it just really fosters this ecosystem where people are constantly churning and getting better and using our tech and our tools to better themselves and the game.
So we have one map that is our visual bar prototype, and it's called Outpost 23. This map shows where we're going in terms of visuals. One of the things that's really important to us is making a game that's both beautiful but really playable.
My charge was, hey, I want to make UT modern. I want to compete with all the modern games, modern graphics and all that stuff. I think we need to be there to create something compelling that people and new audiences are going to want to play. So I feel like we've achieved that goal. I think when people see this thing, they're going to be blown away.
One of the great things about Unreal Tournament is that it's a game that's out there, it's free, you can jump in and truly just play. Or you can actually help us create this game. We're still in a very early alpha stage, and the whole thing is being developed by, with, and for the community.
I really, really want to thank all the people who have been helping with the game. We really appreciate everything you've done, and we're really excited to get the rest of the game out. So come on and help us make UT.
Now with Unreal Tournament, the core game that we're making is completely free. Not free to play, but genuinely free. And then we're operating the Unreal Tournament Marketplace as a venue where mod makers and content creators can sell or give away their creations to the Unreal Tournament community. This is something that is really near and dear to our hearts because a huge number of the people at Epic Games have their roots in the mod communities around Unreal Tournament and Quake and Counter-Strike and other more recent games. It's something that's really been a passion for us, and it's a wonderful on-ramp for hobbyists to get into the industry, learning by building mods and then going on to create commercial projects over time. And not only are we opening up Unreal Tournament for modding, but we are opening up mod capabilities to all developers building games with Unreal Engine 4. We think that this is a huge opportunity for game developers. So any team that's building a complete game can take our complete Unreal Engine tools customized for their game. They can take our source code if they like, and they can distribute all of that to the Unreal Engine community for the purpose of modding their games. And then mods created by the community can be distributed anywhere. They can be sold or given away direct from developers to users or through Steamworks operated by Valve or any other business model. And I'd really like to call out what Valve is. I'm sorry, that is a Steam Workshop, not Steamworks. But I'd really like to call out what Valve is doing there because it's a wonderful move that's really leading the industry forward. They've created Steam Workshop as a venue for content creators to share their content. For a long time, it was operated just with Valve games, but it's now open to all developers of all games of all engines. And Valve recently announced that content creators using the Steam Workshop to distribute their content had earned tens of millions of dollars over the past year in making the content available to users who wanted in-game cosmetic items and other improvements like that. And now, all of those capabilities are available to teams using Unreal Engine 4. We're really supporting modding as a first-class platform, and we think this is a huge opportunity for game developers building games. In the old days, a game's reach was limited by the budget and the team size of the developer building it. But when you open up your game to modding, then it's only limited by the community's imagination. And I could see a future where there are dozens of games across all genres and all visual styles, games of all sizes that are open to modding. And this is a really compelling path forward for a large part of the game industry. Now, there are over 1 million indie developers worldwide, and different people have shared different visions for what the industry will be like for them. One of the bleaker visions I've heard is that, well, let's face it, everything is mobile now, and all of these 1 million indie developers are competing for the same top 10 charts on the App Store and Google Play. And so to compete, we're going to need to do aggressive monetization and paid user acquisition, and in-game advertising, and all these other businessy techniques. And I'd like to point out a wide spectrum of possibilities for indie developers beyond that. Modding is a very interesting one, where developers can pick games of their choosing, and as mods are commercialized in these games, potentially be able to be a much bigger fish in a much smaller pond, and really work in an area of passion as opposed to competing for these global charts. This is something we'll be fully supporting with our Unreal Engine efforts. Now, there's one other major trend in the game industry that I'd like to talk about, but I don't want to even use its name. It is something that has been talked about as an idea for decades. It has so far been a complete failure. And so instead of calling it out, I'd just like to point out the threads of effort throughout the industry that are all feeding into this common direction. One area of major breakthrough lately is virtual reality and augmented reality. The work that Oculus and Valve, HTC, Microsoft, and Magic Leap are doing there is really revolutionary. And it's finally reached a level of quality where it's an incredibly compelling experience. You know, you put this device on your head and you're immersed in a completely realistic virtual environment. Now, what we have now, we're still in the development kit phase. I mean, let's be explicit about that. The current hardware is Palm Pilots to the future iPads that will be available in subsequent generations. But over the coming decade, this is going to see major improvements every year until a decade from now, kids growing up will experience the world in a completely different way than we did growing up, where you have just a seamless interaction between the virtual world and the real world. And that's going to do a funny thing to 3D technology. You know, in the world today, there are billions of smartphones, literally billions of smartphones with some pretty impressive 3D capabilities. And these capabilities right now are only used for games. But over time, they'll be expanded because when you're immersed in a virtual world, you expect that to be your source for doing everything. All applications, your operating system, all of these social facets of your life will be exposed in a 3D environment with rich interaction in a very different way than has been the case so far. And we're very excited about that. Now, another thread that is feeding into this big trend here is the emergence of photorealistic rendering capabilities. Now, Unreal Engine 4 has supported physically based rendering for several years now, but it's really now reaching a critical mass of capabilities and community awareness that we're seeing astonishing things happen. Now, physically based rendering is a combination of several things. First of all, you have this low-level technology, physically based shading, in which the game engine implements a common set of features for representing materials, for performing lighting on them, and for integrating all of the different elements of the scene together into a photorealistic environment. The other major aspect is the merging of the art of content creation with the science of photometric measurement. Now, in addition to intuitively building beautiful objects, our artists will actually go around with light probes and 3D scanners and other devices and actually capture physical objects and get a very accurate representation of them in the Unreal Engine. And then when you combine that with these other elements, another key one is very physically based lighting. And there's now a standard for this. The Illumination Engineering Society has created the standard where now anytime you go buy a light bulb or light fixture, you can go online and download an IES profile which captures the very precise behavior of that real-world light in a computer representation so that it can be brought into the Unreal Engine and then used in your scenes. And so combining all of these physically scanned and physically accurate materials with physically accurate light, you just get this magic of photorealism. And we at Epic, it took us several years to really recognize the potential of this, and the inspiration came from a number of different areas. One of the things that really astonished us here is the work of the architectural visualization community. I'd like to start out by showing one of the things that was created under Unreal Engine 4 recently. It's a beautiful world, but the most impressive thing about it is its realism. There are real materials, real lights, all coming together, and when you combine those elements, you get a real-world scene as the output. Now, it turns out architects have been doing this quality of work for more than a decade, but until recently, they would build this scene and then render it, and come back an hour later, and that one frame of art has been rendered and can be displayed. Now they're doing it all in real time in Unreal, and it's bringing an entirely new level of quality to the state of the art there. Now, the thing that really astonished us the most recently, Weta Digital, world-class visual effects studio, they downloaded Unreal Engine 4 and set out on a project to explore the possibilities of storytelling in virtual reality. And in doing this, they created a demonstration titled Thief in the Shadows. Now, we will not be showing this on this antiquated device here. It's a VR demo, and VR is a new medium, which requires new techniques and new capabilities. If you were to show it running on a monitor, you wouldn't see the magic of it. But you can come by Epic's booth or the Oculus booth and see it running in real time on real VR hardware powered by an NVIDIA GPU, and the results are really stunning. And there's a growing realization that this is the future of storytelling. And I'm not talking about necessarily exactly making movies for VR, but storytelling has a long history that began with lyric plays and then eventually evolved into movies, and that's not the end of it. There's more beyond this. And the funny thing about movies is that even though the technology has changed greatly over the past 100 years, the paradigm remains exactly the same. A movie is a series of static images played one after another at 24 frames a second, and whether it's an old black and white cellulose movie or a 4K super high-res 60 hertz movie today, it was basically the same medium and paradigm of a static series of images. But in order to build really compelling stories in VR, you need to take an entirely different approach. Not only do you need to be able to look around and see the scene around you, but you also need the ability to move your head and see the image respond and all the parallax and all of the cues that your brain expects to form the impression that you are really there, that you are immersed in this environment. And your brain is incredibly picky about that stuff. There is no substitute in the case of an interactive storytelling experience for running the entire experience live in a game engine. And this has huge implications for the future of entertainment. You can think about future movies combining digital sets with digital actors, digital performance, all captured through really high-end scanning techniques to be combined together into a virtual world that you can see, move around with, and perhaps interact with. And this is a reality today that we're seeing widespread interest in through all of the movie studios. Now, so far I've talked about several things coming together. There's virtual reality, there's photorealistic rendering, there's the adoption of game engines all over the industry outside of game development. But this is the word I was afraid to use earlier, but hopefully you can see that there may be some potential here. This is the convergence of all of these different forms of media. Now, this was talked about in the 1990s, right? It was an abysmal failure because the idea ended up being approximated as playing a series of QuickTime movies separated by a little bit of player interaction in games. But it's happening now for real. And the real-time game engine is the common substrate. Photorealistic rendering is the enabling feature that makes it all possible. And the other astonishing thing that happens with photorealistic rendering is once you have realistic objects and realistic lights, you have portability of content between all of these different industries and forms of media. An object that is photoreal, that's built for a movie set, is equally applicable to a game or an architectural visualization. And we're seeing this revolution be carried out in real time on the Unreal Engine forums as we see game developers and architects, storytellers and industrial designers all sharing tools and techniques for their content creation process. And even though they're creating radically different experiences, they're now speaking the same language, they're using the same tools, and it's all happening in real time now in 3D. And now, these are the early days of this. What you can do on current VR hardware is not the end result of it, but is the very start of the revolution. We now have very powerful VR devices. We have very powerful game engines, such as Unreal Engine 4, making it all possible. What we really need now is a series of leaps and bounds in graphics technology. We need faster GPUs. With faster GPUs, we can render more realistic scenes. We can render them at higher frame rates. There are lots of amazing things that we'll be able to do. But a leap in major GPU performance is required. So this is a major topic that we at Epic have been thinking about a lot. I'm wondering, does anybody have any solutions to this problem of faster GPUs? Oh, yeah, come on in. Oh, it's Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. Hi,
Hey,
Jensen.
Tim.
Jensen,
Hey, guys.
thanks for coming.
Hey, this is an important event for your company, and every year I look so much forward to listening to you talk about the future of computer graphics and the future of game design. And you guys know that some of the things that we've worked on over the years have really resulted in some really amazing games. And the things that I really love about working with you guys, you're not always just pushing for a commodity, you're always pushing for even better, and always breaking new ground. Well, the reason I'm here is not for that. I'm not here to say all kinds of nice things about Tim. You guys know how amazing this guy is. We've been working together for a long, long time. The two of us were kids when we started working together, and look at us now. Look at us now, okay? Look how he turned out.
What you're saying is we're old.
No, what I'm saying, you're old. And so, I still look young. Well, I'm not here to say all kinds of nice things about Tim. We can go all day about that. I have a problem. I have a straight up problem. Now, here's the thing. You guys know that on March 17th is GTC. This is NVIDIA's conference. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff lined up to tell you guys about. And of course, during that conference, usually, is when we introduce huge leaps and bounds in GPU technology. And so the problem is this. This GDC 2015, is all about VR. And there are all these demos that are just unbelievable. And in fact, we're looking at a screenshot of Smog just now that's just unbelievable. Well, it needs an amazing GPU. And so the problem that I've got is this. If I launched our next generation GPU 2 weeks from now, GDC 2015 will be a bust. Now that's a legitimate problem, not just for me. That's a legitimate problem for the world. And so I've been carrying around this jacket, okay, with a box inside, and I haven't figured out what to do. And I'm like, but if I launch it here, then nobody will come to GTC. So first of all, you guys all promise to come to GTC, okay, because we're going to have a great event there. But guys, can I have a table? Do you guys have a table here? Do you guys do tables here? Okay, give me a table. Yeah, give me a table. All right. Well, you know this. Look, everything that Tim does, he does in software. It's like magic. You know, he doesn't need things like tables.
So what do we have here, Jensen?
Well, let's if you could just hold on to that nasty jacket there. Can you guys see that, ladies and gentlemen? It's just a black box. Ladies and gentlemen, tight necks. That's right, you guessed it. 12 gigabyte frame buffer. I know. And that's what it takes, Mark. You've got to be a little crazy to be in this business. And this is Titan X. Titan X is 8 billion transistors. 8 billion transistors. It took several thousand man-years to create. It is the most advanced GPU the world's ever seen. And as a result of Tim calling me, and his phone call was, "Can you save GDC?" As a result of Tim calling me, we decided to launch Titan X at the Epic event. Now, this has never happened before in the history of our industry, but I can't imagine a better place to do it. The world's most advanced game engine, the genius of computer graphics, the grandfather, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't it. I was going to say the grandfather of games, because since then, many of us have seen grandchildren. The grandfather of games, I can't imagine a better place to launch it. And so, not only that, oh, sweetheart, go back in. I was talking to that. Not only that, what do you guys think? Well, this is the world's first one. This is the world's first one. And now that we've launched it, we're going to be able to power GDC 2015. And you guys are going to see some amazing demonstrations this week. And I think that I should give the first one to Tim. What do you guys think about that? To Tim, with love, from Jensen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have launched the most advanced GPU ever built, and the first one for Tim Sweeney.
Thank you, Jensen.
Okay, and now back to the regularly programmed program. Okay, all right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll cherish the hardware, and of course, we will see what it can do. Every year, Epic's engine developers get together with NVIDIA engineers, and we have a summit to talk about what is just on the verge of becoming possible with the combination of GPUs and software. And then we work really hard to implement new things and then to build examples taking advantage of it. These efforts have led to past major Epic tech demos, such as the Elemental demo and the Infiltrator demo. And those were all really kind of classic examples of badass, epic AAA graphics. You had giant monsters and giant robots and guns and explosions, and we were taking the engine and pushing it as far as we possibly could. But we're in a new world now. And so this year, we assembled a team of longtime Epic veterans, together with a bunch of folks who are new to the company. And we asked them, what does the Unreal Engine mean to you today? And here is their answer. thank you. That is Unreal Engine 4, Titan X, all running in real time. And what you see in this demo is what we see in a larger scale for the game industry. There are blue skies ahead. It's an entirely new time, and we're only at the very beginning of it. For teams who choose Unreal, Epic is with you. We're with you as an engine provider, and we're with you as a game developer who's dependent on this technology for shipping our own products. With the Unreal Engine, we give you everything so that you can build anything. And with that, I think, comes the power to stand apart. Thank you for coming, thank you for watching, and have a good GDC.